Hello. Thank you all for being here. So this next topic is called Towards a New Ecology of Culture. So ecology, as you know, is the study of relationships between living organisms, but also to each other. And I think that's a very important thing to mention. Just to step back, just to step back, I wanted to talk about ecology, the ecology of culture. We all are in this ecosystem, in this ecology. What would you say this ecology looks like? Is it rich? It's very rich, perhaps very diverse, perhaps not as diverse as we want. Perhaps, is it perhaps slightly unbalanced? What is the ecology that we would like for this ecology of culture to look like? And could we get from perhaps a slight disequilibrium to an ecology of culture which is more in equilibrium and even perhaps regenerative? The thinker Carol Sanford said that sustainability is often more about reducing harm, about survival, whereas regenerative system is about enabling flourishing. So I think that's sort of a vision that I wanted to share, that I think we all share, that where we would like to get to. Today we're very lucky we have 4 speakers that represent the diversity of this ecology. We have an artist, Mohamed Brouissa, who's here with us today. We have the non-profit side, the curator Lilian Freigi, who's come to us from the far away from the Amazon. We have the collector Garance Primat, who's come for us not so far from Geneva, but also has a beautiful place near Angoulême, which we will hear about today, Domaine des Étangs. And we have a gallerist, or a gallery, let's say, Cleona Murphy, who is the head of sustainability for Howden Worth. May I add, the first head of sustainability for a major international gallery. So just to welcome the speakers, perhaps we give a round of applause, just to give them a warm welcome. And so I wanted to start with a personal account, which is, rather than me giving your long biographies, I would like you all to briefly talk about what you do through, in particular, and how an environmental sensitivity came to influence your work. Cleona?
I'll start. Thank you. Thanks, Stefano, for facilitating the conversation. So I'll start by briefly introducing Hauser & Wirth. We are an international commercial art gallery founded in 1992 in Zurich by Ivan and Manuela Wirth and their partners. And we represent over 100 artists and estates and believe in the transformative power on art, and we work with our artists to build their legacies through sharing their art and ideas with the widest possible audiences. And really a sustainable approach is core to how the gallery thinks. And I think that's really spread through the ethos of what the gallery does. And my role is, as Stefano said, is pretty unique, and it's a real privilege to be leading the sustainability initiatives and efforts across the gallery, particularly because this is a young and evolving space within our industry. And I think there hasn't really been any set blueprint to how we do it. So we're really learning in real time, and that's why conversations such as this are great as ways in which to gain knowledge and share information. But from the outset, in terms of establishing the sustainability program, we recognized, and I recognized, that systems change is crucial to what we're doing here. But you can't do that alone. You can't do that kind of work in isolation. And so building collaborations and alliances has really always been central to the work. And so that's why I'm here for this conversation today, but also why I joined Gallery Climate Coalition as a trustee to their organization last year. So I sit on the board of trustees of Gallery Climate Coalition, and they now have over 200 members across 65 countries, which is pretty impressive since they've been in operation since 2020. And really, the Gallery Climate Coalition was set up to support the visual arts, to build lower impact choices into their ways of working, and also build confidence across art workers, cultural leaders, and artists. And what's really interesting about how the membership is shaping up across Gallery Climate Coalition is that it's not just for commercial galleries. The biggest growing membership is coming from institutions and museums, followed closely by artists and studios. So yeah, I encourage you to check out more on Gallery Climate Coalition, because I think that's the kind of area which has the blueprint for this kind of work across the sector.
Just a question, hands up, who knows about Galleries Climate Coalition here? Okay, not bad, but there's some work to be done. How many of you are members of Galleries Climate Coalition? Okay, some work to be done. So it's good that you're here. Yeah. Lillian, maybe onto you. Could you tell us a little bit how what you do and how this environmental sensitivity came to be a core part of what you do?
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. Bonjour. It's such a pleasure to be here. So thanks a lot for Alice. We did a wonderful job together last year at COP. So it's amazing to also keep collaborating with you. And also it's amazing to be able to see many Lab Verde past artists. I coordinate this residency in the Amazon, Brazil, in Manaus, called Lab Verde. And it's amazing to be able to see, we have here this amazing artist, Rodrigo Braga, that is Brazilian. That was the first Lab Verde artist. And then we also have Smith, that was the last edition of Lab Verde, and Lucy Horta, and Law. So it's amazing to be here. So coming back to Lab Verde.
What was the genesis for you to create this residency, to feel that it was important that you did so?
Yeah, so I am from the city in Brazil called Manaus. It's a very, like a large city, because in Brazil there is no such a thing as small city, so it's 2 million people, but it's very, very, very port city. So it's a city of 2 million people, but very port in the middle of the Amazon. And we have to understand that the Amazon suffered by two kind of pressure. International colonization, you know, we have to export a lot of timber, all the extraction of the Amazon that go to the entire planet, but also it's a colony inside of Brazil. So there is no money in Brazil. Brazilians are exploiting the Amazon since the dictatorship. So I was raised in Manaus. I am from Manaus. I am have a Lebanese background. And so being in Manaus, living in Manaus, that is this city that there is no road to reach, and it's just in the middle of the Amazon forest. It's a shame that we don't have like an image here of a Google image, because the city is really in a dot in the middle of a big rainforest. So living there, I witnessed a lot of violence against indigenous people, a lot of violence against non-human entities. And one thing that really marked my life was the building of a hydroelectric called Balbina Dam, And this Balbina Dam was built just to furnish energy to the southern part of Brazil. And it was like a big dam that doesn't work out, but flowed a zone the size of Luxembourg, and flooded many indigenous community, flooded many islands, many animals. So I had to save many animals in the 90s because of this flooding of the constructions of this electric dam. So this has really marked my life. And afterwards, I went to study arts in this wonder place of art. And then I really wanted to combine both things, you know, the struggle of climate change, of climate issues, and also art. So I went back to the Amazon because I study abroad, and I went to the Amazon, and in 2013, I got together with an institution called INPA, that the National Institute of Amazonian Research, that is a big institute for research. And then we create this platform called Lab Verde. And Lab Verde is a platform that is combining art, science, anthropologies, indigenous community to think about other narratives around the Amazon, but also how we can use art to exchange our knowledge and create new cognitions about art and climates.
Thank you, Lillian. Yeah, we'll get back to it afterwards, but thank you for introducing. Mohamed? Well, it's, tell us about what was the genesis of including, let's say, more environmental subjects, plants, etc., in your work.
It's hard in English. Also, it's hard. Okay, my name
because
is Mohamed.
You're not maybe known. Let's say we wouldn't categorize you as an artist who's an eco-artist traditionally, but there's a very strong presence, particularly in the last few years.
My name is Mohamed Bouissa, visual artist, and I'm not only visual artist. I make different things. After I will show you, like the resilient garden I made for the Biennale of Liverpool. But for me, like to discuss about environment, it's hard to. We have to define when we are speaking about environment, because for me it's like. We have different aspects, but after if we can go to that through the project, for me it's like questioning the economy, the social question, the ecology for sure, and the idea of extraction, and how we cultivate our knowledge, and how also we cultivate our relationship to the people and also with the plant. This is like something we have to think about it before to define the environment. What is the environment for me? And that's it for the moment.
Thank you. Garance, the same question to you.
Yes. So I'm Garance Primat. Hello to everyone. I run a family office, our family office. I run a family foundation. And also I'm the owner of Domaine des Étangs in Charente-Limousine, between Limoges and Angoulême. I was raised in nature, very close to nature, and to me everything is related to nature. In fact, the question is the nature of culture and the culture of nature. To me it's deeply linked and it should not be separated. The word culture itself says it all, because culture in Latin, if we go back to roots, and I like to go back to roots always, the word itself says, I mean, it means, it's colere, which actually means to inhabit, to care for, and so basically, it's all about this, what do we want to care for, what world do we want to live in, and what do we want to pass on. So I guess it's all related to the nature of humankind. And so I cannot disconnect myself from this. It's part of my being and everyone's being, I feel.
Thank you. I think because we all are deeply interested in this intersection, and it's really interesting to hear. We all come from different places to come to this, common interest. So it's really interesting to hear. I wanted to touch on something that Guillaume Desanges mentioned earlier as well, which is there is a sort of competitiveness in this ecosystem, right? That we live in, that we work in, many of us, between galleries, but between artists as well, even between collectors with their, competing foundations. So what I think is interesting about the speakers today, and also about the subject we're addressing today, is that the ecology is also a lot about working together, working between humans, working between species. And I wanted to ask you all to talk about the work you're doing, but also with that angle, with how important was collaboration and within this ecology to get to there. I think counterintuitively you have to go left rather than right. Maybe because I'm pointing it the wrong way.
Okay, thanks. So I guess in terms of that competitive question, one of the things that I thought was useful to highlight in this forum was some of the work that we have, the practical work that we have been evolving, and that's very much how I've rooted the program and how the gallery has really breadcrumbed the way in which we have built our sustainability program. And it's really been built using the language of Hauser and Wirth and using the language of the art world, because I think one of the things I've discovered through talking to lots of consultants and advisors, particularly from outside the art world, is that that type of work doesn't necessarily serve the art world or serve the culture, the kind of cultural practices. I think what works in corporate sustainability doesn't necessarily translate. And so I think what I wanted to do was highlight some of the examples that have worked within the gallery and share some of those, because I think that's how you break down this kind of competitive nature, how you try to help short circuit some of the work. And what's interesting in the conversation this morning before we started was I was talking to some colleagues from a gallery outside of ours who have been using some of the practices that I've been developing. So these are kind of rooted in local initiatives. So you'll see here on the side our gallery in Menorca. We've worked with an organization called Key Culture, who are one that you should definitely check out. They have been working hard across the US and in museums in Europe on climate control training. So training organizations how to adjust their climate control, because we know that building energy in galleries, in big museums and institutions accounts for about 60% of emissions. And so if you can shift the practices, the behavioral practices within institutions, that's one good way to save energy. So part of the work in our gallery in Menorca has been around adjusting climate control in line with international practices. And Camille, in her talk, mentioned some of that work. So we've also been establishing that the BESO protocol in our LA gallery. I mean, it's not going to be applicable in every location, but in these two locations, we have been able to make it happen. One of the other parts of the work that we do have been climate convening. So back in 2022, I established an event series called Sustainability in Action, where we invited artists. So back in 2022, we ran that inaugural program at our gallery in Somerset in rural England, and we invited artists like Superflex and Hayley Mellon and Pippi Lottie Rist to share their perspectives on where the art world was at in terms of sustainability. And we also created a platform for organizations like Gallery Climate Coalition, like Galleries Commit, like Artists Commit, and ArtSwitch. And it was really a look at that kind of burgeoning area of art and sustainability. And 5 years on, we're now collaborating with a US philanthropic organization, and we'll host the next iteration in New York during Climate Week. And really looking to reframe the way in which the art world views climate solutions. So leaning into what science can tell us, what entrepreneurs can tell us, what cultural commentators can tell us, aligned with artists. Then within the gallery, we've been looking at low carbon logistics, and that's come down to EVs and how we deliver last mile deliveries into our urban locations. And some of the work that gives me the most joy and satisfaction are the regenerative materials that we've been working to adopt across the gallery. So we've done a lot of research with Parsons University in New York on material builds that are used in temporary exhibitions. We've looked at how do we switch out to more sustainable choices within the wood that we use to build our gallery walls. But one of the biggest and most astonishing statistics that we learnt was that 60% of microplastics in oceans and waterways are coming from acrylic paint. And there's a really easy and obvious swap is to switch to mineral paint. And so across our gallery locations, we've been working to switch out to mineral paint. So it's readily available in Europe, in France, in the UK, in the US. So it's one of those practical steps in which we can all make. You just need the education to be able to do that and the knowledge base to do that. And so I guess that's what this strategy is all about, is like trying to give other galleries, institutions, artists, studios, some of the blueprints to get active.
And it's also, you've got interesting examples as well where you've worked hand in hand with the artists as well. I think that's interesting to share as well.
Yeah, sure. I can flip down to that. So, whoops. We worked with Nicolas Party, the Swiss painter based in New York. We worked with him on his exhibition, a recent exhibition in London, and worked very closely with his studio in New York, with crate makers in New York, and then with wall builders in London, and ran an environmental audit of the exhibition. But we're able to apply some of these direct learnings to the exhibition builds, the paint choices, and so having those, very tangible, practical examples, and being able to engage an artist to show these are the simple one-to-one swaps that you can make and work in alignment with the gallery are like very tangible and easy to do. So this case study is available on our website, so you can read more about it there. But one of the interesting parts of the work was that we did an assessment based on business as usual. So if we didn't do anything, if we just ran it as we would regularly run an exhibition, or if we made some switches particularly with the artist studio and the planning for the exhibition, and really that 20% reduction, which was what we had in reality, was because we didn't do as many international flights. And I think this is another big point that the international art world needs to learn from, and something that I bang the drum about a lot is finding ways to reduce the level of international travel that we do, because we have the technologies, we have the remote working abilities, and this exhibition, this calculation was a really good example of making that reduction and still having a brilliant exhibition at the end. So it's one of those.
And in this case, it was you as the gallery that was initiating this conversation about sustainability, or it came from the artist? How did that?
No, it was the gallery that initiated it. Yeah.
Lilian, perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about, as well, what you're doing and how that collaborative approach happens within the ecosystem that you create.
Well, I can share with you a little bit about our methodology. So we have this platform, and we create all the development that we do in the art field is we develop inside of the rainforest, no? Because this is our main base. So working inside of the rainforest really allows us to consider all the rainforest as a big entity and a hyper object that can contribute also to your way of thinking. So inside of the Amazon, it's really important to recognize all the subject that is composing the Amazon, so all the indigenous communities, all the different ethnicities, black communities, white communities, but also to consider the non-humans also as a subject in the creation of knowledge, and also to be able to share with different set of knowledge and different set of people that cross different set of existence. Can you understand? So what we do is that we work a little bit with the methodology of the anthropology, ethnography of non-humans, to consider the forest as an entity that can help us to think brighter. So learning with the forest about technology, learning with the forest about different things. And also, for me, what I learned with the forest is about democracy. This is really important, how we share resources, how we share technologies, how we share methodologies. So in 2018, we created this program that started as a residency called Fungi Cosmology. So we gather curators, artists, anthropologists, philosophers, scientists, mycologists, no, to understand how forest works and to understand the symbiosis between forest and to apply for creating a new set of knowledge together. So trying to make questions together. This, I think it's really important. And when I say that we combine different set of knowledge, not just combining different disciplines, but I think what is really, really important for the climate fight is that we combine people with different, that cross their lives with different existence. This is really, really, really important. And what we learn a lot with fungi, for instance, and fungi for us was really important because fungi is one kingdom that also it's generating a lot of money for the Amazon, because the Yanomami people cultivate 14 different kind of fungi that we can eat it. And because the Amazon is being destroyed for the production of meat, now we have to learn with the Yanomami people how we can have another source of protein, and they have 14 different sources of protein. So it's also we organize this project to learn with each other, to make questions together, but we also enhancing the possibility of creating a new economy, that is the economy of distributing the Yanomami fungi so they can get money out of this. So this for us is a project that is combining the sense of democracy that I think it's really important in climate change.
Thank you. It's an amazingly holistic approach. I actually want to pass to Garance first, because I think there's a lot of overlapping kind of ideas and thinking behind what you're also working on.
Yes. So to me, going back to culture is about nourishment. In fact, if we go back to the history of art, it traces culture and art to paintings in caves, showing scenes of life, and trying to transmit and pass on the knowledge of the land the primary people used to live on. going back to Domaine des Étangs, I feel that culture is about food, food for the body, food for the heart, and food for the mind. What food do we want to give ourselves? So it's about the way you treat and you care for the land, the way you adapt to the land you live on. So at Domaine des Étangs, we do permaculture, organic permaculture, organic agriculture. We have a restaurant, we have a spa, we have a hotel, and we have 1,000 hectares to manage. And we try to live in harmony with the nature we are surrounded with. So we introduce some indicators of biodiversity, like the dragonfly, which is the logo of the domain. And the dragonfly needs actually to live in all elements, and she needs all 5 elements in harmony to evolve in it and be able to grow in those ecosystems. So with scientists, we observe the dragonflies at Domaine des Étangs, and we also observe pollinators to measure the state of pollination. And we also do the same with invertebrates, which are able to give us the state of the soil. So we measure that. And then at Domaine des Étangs, to showcase this art of life, we also work with artists, and we have an art collection in the land as well as inside the buildings. So we've been working with artists such as Thomas Saracino, who works with spiders and not dragonflies. And also he's been working with the elements, with his aeroscene. He's trying to imagine the way life could be if we adapted to new technologies without using any fossil fuels, and just the nature of the elements. And then we've been working as well with artists, feminine artists like Caroline Corbasson. She's very much inspired by the earth and the sky, our alignment. She's been working with scientists as well, and she does this in a very poetic way. And I feel that Domaine des Étangs is a place for inspiration, and the role of art, as much as artists, is actually to inspire new ways of being to the world.
Thank you, Garance. It's a very good segue to Mohamed, who is an artist.
Okay.
And you've been developing this project in a very organic way as well.
Yeah, but I don't have so much time, but
Okay.
I go directly to about what I wanted to say. Because we spoke a lot about ecosystem, about happiness, about to be together, but I want to talk about hunger, talk about struggle, because okay, je vais juste dire ce que j'ai à dire parce que we need to go deeper on like this level, because I wrote just like few minutes in Instagram like a sentence from Chico Mendes. He said the ecology without class struggle is gardening, and it's really like something we have to understand, because we speak a lot about things, and the word is violent for sure. I talk about economy, social, ecology, and also the race, the class, the class, middle class, and I know a lot of artists. They are struggling right now. They're fighting a lot, and they try to develop different art about ecology and things. And sometimes what I see because we speak about galleries, they support all the time. They have the production, they have like their own economy, and sometimes they just try to sell the artist, and I understand that. But sometimes the other part of the art is what they do. And in the neighbor, because I'm living in Gennevilliers, in local area in Paris, and I push so many projects. This project I made in Liverpool, but I made a lot of projects in Gennevilliers. But what I learned from that, when you try to make like more social project, we not have so many support. It's like so hard to get the support of that, because you don't have much, I think, to sell directly. And this is something we have definitely to change that in mind from the ecosystem we are living on. The gallery I have to speak about the
collector and say, maybe you should support this kind of immaterial work and supporting this also. Not try just to say, we are speaking this, we are doing this good, and like, okay, but let's support the other part of the artist when they try to involve themselves all the time. And this is the point, is because we talk about also the community. A lot of artists, they are involved in the community, and sometimes they try to be involved on that, and they don't find the economy to still in this kind of project. That I mean, also the system, the galleries, the collectors have to understand that they have to push this kind of, I mean, this kind of, comment tu dis ça? D'action, how you say, cultural action for the artists, what they do this kind of thing, because you start to lose, and the only artists you will have is only artists on the gallery, on the exhibition, and the things. I mean, on doit changer aussi notre manière de penser l'art. C'est vraiment important. I would say in French because I'm so angry in reality. I'm so angry because we just speak about like to be fine and nice, but we have to speak about the violence of the world we are living on. It's good. I respect what you do. Try to speak about like how many planes you get. It's fine, but there is like some other parts of the people like living also in Amazonia. It's like this is very violent for the rest, and we try to push in because we have to be nice, and we have to be nice to the people who have the money to, you know. And sometimes we can't be nice in this kind of the world we are living. I try to develop other projects with Palestinian artists and have this community around, and I'm fighting all the time to find the right economy, because we speak about environment, but the environment is not only nature. For me, the environment is not, also, I'm just sorry, it's not like against you, but I don't like the way when we speak about nature and to take the nature without us. We are the part of the nature. It's like, it's really something we have to change in that spirit. And also about the knowledge, after I have like just quick a few minutes, I see. Another thing, it's like these guys, I met him, I start to be interested about plants also, because I learned from him. And me also, another thing, I came to the ecology through the colonization. I learned because I'm from Algeria, and the colonization is really related to the globalization, how we extract things from our planet all the time. And this guy, he was a passion in Algeria, and learned from him how to make a garden. All the time we ask the people who should be the teacher, who's supposed to be the people who have the knowledge, but sometimes you get more knowledge from someone who is just a passion. And I start to ask him to learn me, and I was he's a student, and he learned me. He was my teacher to learn how to make a garden, because maybe he was not writing like theory about things, but he learned that from his own experience, and we have to also to listen that also. And I built this project in Liverpool, resilience garden, and it was, for me, it's very important because the people was bringing the plant from where they come from also, because I make this project in Liverpool Biennale, and I make this huge garden there, and now the garden is still alive, and it was a garden community, and I bring a lot of young kids, people from the neighborhood, they have access to this garden. And after that we made like through this, the material was not used, build a sculpture with the kids, and we make this sculptural garden also with the kids. And this is really like something to get from not trying to, I have my own idea, I collaborate, and I have this okay system, and you have to listen the other one. Ok, c'est bon, j'ai fini juste ce que je voulais dire. Merci, au revoir.
Thank you very much, Mohamed. I think Garance, and we would all agree that the human is an essential part of nature. And I think what you make is a really important point, and that's why also we invited you here today, is to make that point where sometimes we talk about sustainability and we forget the human aspect and the social element. And I think that's a really important point that you made. So thank you for sharing. I think we have not much time. So I probably will finish off with a question, which is, so we were going back to this idea of this ecology in which we are all part of. The question I wanted to ask to finish was what is that responsibility that you think you have in that position that you have in this ecosystem? What is that? What responsibility do you have? And then if you want to share anything else in particular, one thing for the audience to take away, that would be great as well. Thank you.
Thank you, and I really appreciate your comments, Mohammed. I think you bring a sense of reality and groundedness to the conversation, and I think that would have been a brilliant starting point for this conversation, because I think it would have turned in a very different way. So thank you. From my perspective, I think the thing that I would like to leave with, I think, is something that's important because it shows a blueprint for how the kind of the traditional art market, art world is currently operating, and how we could see some shifts and ways forward. And this is based on some of the research from Gallery Climate Coalition, and they identified within wider society positive tipping points. So moments in society where there have been changes and shifts and steps in the right direction. And a couple of those are things like social contagion, and we've seen that in rooftop solar. So once one home in a neighborhood installs solar panels, then you see other neighbors joining along, because there's a multiplier effect to that. Once you see it, then it's social proof that this is a concept that could work in your home. We've also seen it through storytelling. The BBC series on Blue Planet has really amplified the message around plastic ocean pollution. That's obviously not so close to home, but it's something that was a shift within society, and I think an awareness that has helped drive some of the change that we need. And then I think there's also a great example from Norway of culture influencing policy, and some environmental activists and the 1980s pop band a-ha got behind the concept of EVs, and now electric vehicles are, within 90% of the driving population in Norway. So I think looking at those blueprints for wider society, within the art world, there are a couple of examples that we could all get behind, and I think some of those are art fairs, because they are moments for collective alignment. They're moments where all the stakeholders are out, it's all visible, and there are so many opportunities for the art fairs to drive change, with galleries participating, clients arriving at fairs, artists making work for fairs. I think that's something that could really be an opportunity. We've also seen that in the US, there's a real unlock that could come from funders. So people like the Helen Frankenthaler Foundation and their climate initiative have been funding the decarbonization of museums and institutions, or something like the TIGA Foundation that directly support curatorial climate programming. Both in the US, I'm not aware of any in Europe, but if you hear of any, please let me know. And then, we talked earlier about institutional energy. We know that a high percentage of energy emissions are coming from those big institutions. So there's an obvious opportunity for decarbonization in those institutions. Artists as advocates, we have Mohammed here. We have, this whole program today is about artists being advocates and really using their voice and being able to use their voice. And I think that's, huge. And then audiences as cultural accelerators. This whole program over the next couple of weeks shows that audiences want to show up for this kind of climate programming. So I think those are some of the examples that will help to shift and remove some barriers.
Thank you. And all of the GCC material, House and Worth, environment sustainability material is available to everybody as well. So please check it out. Who would like to go next? Lillian?
So I think Mohammed, thanks a lot for your speech. I think Mohammed touched in a very, very nice point that I haven't heard in another panel. that for me it's like chirurgical when it's concerning to climate change, is that the solution is the distribution of wealth. This is the solution. There is no things, we can do whatever we want, we can reduce, I call it, me and Rodrigo, we call it green love. It's this new wave of how people are, how neoliberalism are like unfolding all this struggle with green love, but the word is screw. We are facing fascism, and the only way possible is through the distribution of wealth. So my role in the Amazon is doing this. You know, in the Amazon, for instance, just 18% of the money that all the ONGs get in the name of the Amazon, just 18% is circulating in the Amazon. So everybody's speaking around the Amazon to save the Amazon, but the money really doesn't circulate there. So I'm there, I'm working with culture, I'm working innovation, I'm working with science, I'm working with knowledge, I'm employing like 50 people at each residency. I'm doing what I can, and what I can is distribution of wealth. And the distribution of wealth is not means that I am hiring another white people. I am white in Brazil. We have the white privilege to be white in Brazil, perhaps here not, but is really circulates the money where there is no money. So the community, indigenous communities have to get money. They need money to preserve themselves because they cannot fish anymore, because the river are drawn, because the river is full of mercury. So we really need to make the money circulate for the entire planet. And we have to really acknowledge that that climate change is a resignification of colonialism, you know, is an extension of colonialism. And we also have to acknowledge that the big cause of climate change is the global privileged north and all the cities like New York, like Paris, and who is being affected? It's us, you know, in the global south. And we don't have any infrastructure to fight against it. So for instance, when we had the pandemic, most of people died in Brazil. In Manaus was horrible. My city was horrible. I lost many friends. There was no hospital, no nothing, because there is no money and no infrastructure. So if there is no money and no infrastructure circulating with democracy, there is no way of struggling climate change.
Thank you.
And I want to say nothing, just thank you for this time and thank you for the invitation.
So to me, it's about going back to the roots of humanity, in fact. And also, it's about bringing new indicators of the living and the being of the well-being of humanity and nature. Because if we only look at economics and figures, we will, of course, do something imbalanced. The management will be imbalanced. So we need to bring indicators of the living to the systems we have put in place. And then it's about growing as a humankind, but also the growth we want to. Is it economic growth? Do we want it to be related to nature or disconnected to nature? And how do we want to grow? Towards what? Towards what world? And it's also about nourishment, because we all have a power, and we all are artists. What do we want to nourish? What do we want to care for? What world do we want for our kids? And so it's about taking responsibility and being conscious for everyday gestures. And this, I think, could apply to anyone, everyone. And yeah, basically, that's it. Realigning acts and facts.
Thank you. I think that's a very nice way to end. And I think it's been a really important conversation, which is kind of the idea of this conversation, to think about ecology and environment and sustainability in a much more holistic sense. And I think that's what we did today. And so a huge round of applause for our audience. Thank you very much. To our audience and our speakers mostly.